2005's Batman Begins, directed by Christopher Nolan, was inspired by classic Batman comics and reshaped Batman's origin and public image after the disastrous reception from the prior Batman film release, saving the Batman brand. Hi, I'm Matt Barton, and if you're a fan of Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy or even the Batman character in general, join me in taking a look back at each of the Batman films' inception, promotional tie-ins, a recap and analysis of the films, and merchandising tie-ins. Without further ado, here is the Batman film that not only revived Batman for modern audiences, but would ultimately set the stage for the superhero genre for years to come. Here's my look back at Batman Begins. In 1997, Batman and Robin arrived in theaters, quickly becoming a turning point for the franchise, but not in a good way. Directed by Joel Schumacher, the film was widely criticized for its overly comedic tone and heavy focus on spectacle over emotionally driven, serious storytelling. Even actors felt as if they were in a toy commercial rather than a film. Audiences and critics alike bashed the film, and Warner Brothers quickly shut down plans for future Schumacher Batman sequels, mimicking the studio's step away in previous years from Tim Burton's vision for the character. For several years, The Dark Knight was stuck in production limbo. The studio knew Batman was too valuable to abandon, but it was clear the character needed a serious on-screen makeover to avoid permanently damaging the property's reputation. After multiple failed pitches, including an abandoned origin idea by Joss Whedon, who would go on to direct The Avengers years later, an adaptation of Batman Year One, and even an idea for a Batman vs. Superman film, which Warner Brothers reportedly was quite fond of, until Sam Raimi's Spider-Man film with a completely different tone became a major box office success. The studio finally made the decision in early 2003 to hire Christopher Nolan to reinvent the Batman character.
I'd made my last film at Warner Brothers, so I was able to go to them and explain to them the way I saw the Batman franchise being interestingly reinvented.
Nolan partnered with writer David S. Goyer.
I felt I needed a writer on the project who really knew the character.
I remember telling my mother when I was a kid that I was going to go to Hollywood one day and do a Batman film. And in a way, I'd been waiting my whole life for this call. And I talked for about an hour and spitballed a large amount of what the film is. And Chris said, "Wow, that sounds great," saying, "You have to do this, you have to do this."
And together they began crafting a Batman origin film, a concept that had never been fully explored on screen. The idea used Batman Year One, The Long Halloween, Joss Whedon's origin idea, and Schumacher's choice for a villain, the Scarecrow, as fragments of inspiration. However, their ultimate goal was realism.
From the beginning, my interest was in taking on a superhero story but treating it in a realistic fashion.
Instead of leaning into noir, dark fantasy, or comedy like previous Batman films, Nolan wanted Gotham to feel like a real city, and Bruce Wayne to feel like a real person. Nolan and Goyer insisted on treating Batman not as a cartoon character, but as a man shaped by trauma, fear, and will to act, to stand up for what is right. Casting Batman was a major challenge. The studio looked at many actors, including future stars and established names, such as Henry Cavill, who went on to be cast in Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder's 2013 project Man of Steel, Jake Gyllenhaal, Heath Ledger, who went on to be cast as the Joker in Nolan's Batman sequel, and Cillian Murphy, who went so far in the casting process, he screen tested in the Batman suit, but was instead cast as one of the film's villains, the Scarecrow. In the end, Christian Bale, who was still relatively unknown to mainstream audiences, but was a rising star thanks to American Psycho, won the role, having successfully convinced Nolan he could handle both sides of the character, the public smarmy billionaire by day, and the brooding vigilante by night. To prepare, Bale studied Batman comics, trained in martial arts, and underwent a dramatic physical transformation, gaining muscle rapidly in time for filming after having lost weight for his role in The Machinist. Supporting roles were filled with experienced, respected actors who helped give the film weight. Michael Caine was cast as Alfred, Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes, a love interest for Bruce entirely made up for the film, and Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon. Together, the cast grounded the film in realism rather than comic exaggeration, giving Bale an active threat, and the film a strong emotional core.
3, 2, 1, action!
Principal photography began in 2004, with Nolan refusing to use a second unit so he could control every shot. The production traveled to Iceland, England, and the United States, using real locations instead of relying on digital backgrounds. Nolan favored practical effects, miniatures, and controlled explosions over CGI. Unlike earlier Batman films, Gotham City was pieced together using real cities, Chicago and London. This gave the movie a lived-in, believable look. While the Narrows made from miniatures and CGI were added to give an extra layer of decay and grime to Gotham. Massive sets like the Batcave were constructed physically.
The Batcave starts with the rigging, then we go into wood, and then we cast these sheets, thousands of sheets. These are cast off existing rocks. Up above, you'll see those arches up there. They're basically the foundations of Wayne Manor. And we're saying this was an underground lake that's drained out. So we're actually building a river that runs through here. And slowly but surely, we end up with a Batcave.
The idea for Batman's gadgets and suit were to set them in the modern real world based off of military gear.
There's all sorts of interesting processes that you go through where you have to have your whole body, molded.
A plaster Christian Bale is then produced out of that mold, and as soon as the concept sculpt was approved, it's literally broken down and remolded into the different parts of the costume.
In post-production, Nolan continued avoiding excessive visual effects, mostly using CGI to enhance the footage rather than replace it. Music played a major role in shaping the film's realistic tone. Composers Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard created a score focused less on heroic themes like the prior Batman films, and more on creating tension and drama. At last, in 2005, nearly a decade after the prior Batman film, a film that was despised by critics and fans alike for satirizing the source material rather than being faithful, Batman Begins was released in theaters to critical acclaim. However, before taking a look back at the film itself through recap and analysis, let's look into the film's promotional tie-ins. Batman Begins focused on its identity as a grounded crime reboot for adults, not a toy-selling spectacle. Therefore, there were no fast food tie-ins, unlike 1997's Batman and Robin, and every prior Batman film released. Batman Begins avoided any chance to be considered another kids' film. Rather, the film focused more on building its identity as cinema, with teasers releasing in 2004 and longer, more revealing trailers releasing in spring 2005.
Gotham must be destroyed. Gotham isn't beyond saving. Guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
As well as magazine and online marketing, including downloadable content like posters and screensavers. Walmart featured in-store displays showcasing the film's trailer and video game, offering unique Wayne Enterprises branded promotional coins. Verizon was one of the few companies to run official tie-in television ads.
Gotham isn't beyond saving. He's here. Oh, the Batman. Gotham must be destroyed.
Introducing Vcast.
What's that?
Broadband quality video on your phone.
Hello? Hey, I gotta go.
Watch movie trailers from the summer's biggest movies like Batman Begins. Be sure to see the Batman Begins trailer on Vcast and see the movie in theaters June 15th. Only from Verizon Wireless.
The ads focused on an adult audience, again attempting to reshape audience expectations for the next Batman blockbuster. Lastly, in the months leading up to the film's release, the cast of the film went on a promotional tour.
Joining me now is filmmaker Christopher Nolan and the actor playing Batman, Christian Bale. I'm pleased to have them here to talk about this movie.
Where they helped to position the film as a prestigious relaunch with a strong emphasis on Christopher Nolan as a serious filmmaker and the star-studded cast.
Something you wanted to do?
Play Batman?
Yeah.
It was never something that I was interested in through seeing the TV series or seeing the movies. It was something I became interested in through reading the graphic novels, not until about the year 2000. I was lent a graphic novel called Arkham Asylum, and that was the first time that I ever saw a Batman that I personally found to be a truly fascinating character. The portrayals that I'd seen of Batman previously were spoofs of what Batman was intended to be. And then there was a kind of a revival with Frank Miller doing Batman Year One. There are other great graphic novels like Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's Dark Victory and Long Halloween, and it's a very, very different, darker look at the character. And it was the first time that I thought this is something I really would love to get a chance to portray.
Hollywood Boulevard, the black carpet world premiere, Batman Begins. My name's Leo Quinones. This is the Batman movie I've waited for my whole life.
At last, the film, Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, was released. And at last, let's take a look back at the film itself. Batman Begins opens with a young Bruce Wayne and childhood friend Rachel Dawes playing outside of Wayne Manor. Bruce falls through a well, where he discovers what would eventually become the Batcave, a deep cavern under the property. This is also where Bruce develops his fear of bats. The creatures swarm young Bruce, and the film hard cuts to Bruce in the modern day, where he is imprisoned, trying to understand life from criminals' perspectives. There, other criminals attempt to kill the incarcerated billionaire.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
But fail.
Military! Why? For protection! I don't need protection. Protection for them!
Immediately, viewers see the fighting and editing as choppy and raw. A complete diversion from the sound effects heavy, clearly exaggerated choreography from the prior Batman film.
Oh, yeah!
In solitary confinement, a man steps from the shadows, Ducard, played by Liam Neeson.
What path can Ra's al Ghul offer?
The path of the League of Shadows. Vigilante is just a man lost in the scramble for his own gratification. He can be destroyed, locked up. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, then you become something else entirely.
Ducard tells Bruce to take a blue wildflower to Ra's al Ghul, and they will help him to become the legend Ducard spoke of. Immediately having been thrown out of the prison and left to die in the cold, Bruce travels up the mountain to Ra's al Ghul, and Ducard agrees to teach Wayne. Ducard says to Wayne the only way to manipulate the fear in others is to first master his own, and the film hard cuts to Bruce's longtime fear, bats, then flashing back to the past where Bruce's dad helps him out of the well.
Took quite a fall, didn't we, Master Bruce?
Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
And later, the Waynes head to an opera, riding the high-speed rail the Waynes had built.
People less fortunate than us have been enduring very hard times. So we built a new, cheap public transportation system to unite the city. And at the center, Wayne Tower. I work at the hospital. I leave the running of our company to much better men. Wow. More interested men.
The bat-like opera scares Bruce, and his father agrees to head out, to spare his son from any more PTSD attacks. In the alleyway outside the opera house, a man jumps the Waynes, holding them at gunpoint.
Here you go. It's fine. It's fine.
When the gun is moved to point at Martha, Thomas attempts to stand between her and the gun, and in the heat of the moment, is shot. Martha is shot as well, and the stranger runs off with the wallet, leaving Bruce alone with his parents, bleeding out on the concrete. The film then introduces the audience to James Gordon, who puts Bruce's father's jacket around his shoulders to help comfort him in his time of need. Following the funeral, the audience is also introduced to Earl, a man who Thomas Wayne would have described as those that were more interested in running the company, rather, intercepting the company. Yes, Earl tells Bruce the company is in good hands until he's old enough to run it, only to be revealed later on in the modern-day timeline that the company was going public. Bruce wouldn't be able to run it, as Earl had claimed. The film continues to cut between the past and present, as Bruce trains with Ducard, and when Bruce is a little older, when he returns from college to attend Joe Chill's hearing. During this time, Bruce says he can't stand the manor as it feels like a mausoleum.
It's my father's house.
Your father is dead.
Now, this place is a mausoleum. If I have my way, I'll pull the damn thing down brick by brick.
This house, Master Wayne, has sheltered 6 generations of your family. I give a damn, because a good man once made me responsible for what was most precious to him.
It is then revealed that Bruce intends to shoot Joe Chill upon his release, and Rachel explains that because Chill shared a cell with Carmine Falcone, he was simply being released early in exchange for information. At the hearing, Joe Chill is given time to speak. I love that you can see the hatred in Bruce's eyes, until of course Chill speaks, saying simply,
"Not a day goes by that I don't wish I could take back what I did. Sure, I was desperate, like a lot of people back then, but that don't change what I did."
The inner turmoil because of his words make Bruce question whether Chill actually meant to cause the atrocities he did, whether killing him was actually right. A performance of inner turmoil Bale portrayed so well. Wayne stands up when offered the chance to speak, deciding to just walk out. Silence, pure disappointment, a symbol that said more than words ever could. Bruce gets ready to kill Joe Chill, despite the clear unrest in his own moral framework, when one of Carmine Falcone's thugs shoots Chill first to prevent him from talking. Despite not being the one to shoot Chill, Bruce soaks it up.
We don't need to see this.
I do.
Bruce admits to Rachel that he fully intended to shoot Joe Chill in the lobby, but his plan was foiled by the actual shooter, and she slaps him. upset with his short-sightedness.
Your father would be ashamed of you.
It's with this line that Bruce tosses the gun into the river, laying the groundwork for his no guns rule in the future. Rachel explains that
Falcone floods our streets with crime and drugs, preying on the desperate, creating new Joe Chills every day. Now, Falcone may not have killed your parents, Bruce. He's destroying everything that they stood for. You want to thank him for that? Here you go.
Bruce heads inside Falcone's lounge to confront him.
Oh, gun. I'm insulted.
And the theme of fear is brought up once again.
I came here to show you that not everyone in Gotham's afraid of you. Only those who know me, kid. Look around you. A couple off-duty cops and a judge. I wouldn't have a second's hesitation in blowing your head off right here and right now in front of them. Now that's power you can't buy. That's the power of fear.
Bruce is immediately kicked out, and he takes what Falcone said to heart.
Now you think, because your mommy and your daddy got shot, you know about the ugly side of life, but you don't. You've never tasted desperate.
Immediately burning his wallet, giving all his remaining cash to a homeless man, he trades coats with the man and decides to fully become part of deep poverty, to understand better the power structures that have created the Joe Chills, rather than simply hate the Joe Chills themselves. This narrative is directly juxtaposed with Ducard's present-day teachings.
The criminal is not complicated.
Ducard smashes and burns the blue flower Bruce had brought, creating smoke for Bruce to inhale.
Breathe.
The flower containing hallucinogenic properties forces Bruce to see his fears before him.
To conquer fear, you must become fear.
And Ducard presents the intoxicated Bruce with another challenge. Ra's al Ghul is impressed with Bruce and presents him with one final challenge: beheading a criminal.
I will go back to Gotham and I will fight men like this, but I will not become an executioner. What are you doing? It's necessary, my friend.
Bruce destroys the League of Shadows, but decides to save Ducard, believing that Ducard might not fully believe in the unsound teachings of Ra's al Ghul. Alfred picks Bruce up after 7 long years away, where he tells Alfred of his plan upon his return to Gotham.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
The audience is then introduced to the other main villain of the film, Dr. Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, who is in the process of convincing judges to bring criminals with ties to Carmine Falcone to Arkham Asylum, where he could experiment on them in secret. Bruce, sitting in the manor, crafting his plan to become a symbol of fear, hears a bat flying around indoors.
Bless you, back again, son.
This scene is very reminiscent of the first Batman origin comic panels, where Bruce chooses his symbol, his weapon of fear, the bat. He then finds the cave from all those years ago, the well he had fallen into, the cave that caused his lifelong phobia. There he proves that Ducard's lessons have paid off and that he has conquered his fear. Bruce Wayne is no longer scared of the bats. Now, after so long, he has become one with them. Bruce then heads to Wayne Enterprises, where he asks Mr. Earl for a position in applied sciences. Earl, happy Wayne isn't causing problems with the company going public, quickly grants him the position. Once down in the division, Bruce meets Lucius Fox, wonderfully portrayed by Morgan Freeman. Fox shows Bruce several of the discontinued projects, including Armor and a cliff-hopping tank. Projects that Bruce would soon use to become the Batman.
So what do you think? Does it come in black?
Bruce starts his first outing as the Batman using a ski mask and the first rendition of his costume. Pretending to hold Gordon at gunpoint, Bruce asks Gordon what he'd need to prosecute Falcone. Bruce then attempts to leave, making his first big mistake jumping off a roof unprepared.
The hell was that?
Just some nut.
The damage from the fall inspiring his next ask from Lucius. Gordon's partner, dirty cop Flass, meets Falcone on the docks, where the Batman makes his first official appearance, taking down the thugs one at a time in a very well done, tense sequence.
Where are you?
What the hell are you? I'm Batman. Nice coat.
The following day, some of Falcone's thugs attempt to mug Rachel and are stopped by Batman.
That's right. You better run.
There, Batman gives Rachel incriminating photos to use as leverage over the corrupt judge. Christian Bale's Batman suit is shown in nearly full light here, being one of the first times a Batsuit during the day looks good on screen. In fact, the costume looks great, more realistic and simply cooler than ever before. With Falcone tied up at the scene and the leverage over the judge, Dawes and her boyfriend, the DA, agree to bring the case against Falcone. It is then reported that a very important piece of cargo was intercepted.
Nice car. Should see my other one.
Bruce then takes Alfred's advice and puts on the billionaire playboy persona to divert attention.
The pool is for decoration, and your friends do not have swimwear. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. It is not a question of money.
You see, I'm buying this hotel and setting some new rules about the pool area.
Bruce?
He runs into Rachel Dawes and tries to explain his persona to her.
Rachel, all this, it's not me. I am more.
Deep down, you may still be that same great kid you used to be, but it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Their chemistry is quite good. Bruce's childish smile harboring back to their crushes during childhood. In her, he sees the part of his childhood that was good, the part of Gotham that is still good.
Yeah, Dr. Crane. I can't take it anymore. It's all too much. The walls are closing in. Blah, blah, blah. A couple of days of this food. It'll be true.
Carmine then has a meeting with Dr. Crane, as the two had been working together for a while.
Would you like to see my mask? I'm probably not very frightening to a guy like you with these crazies. You can't stand it.
So when did the nut take over the nut house?
They scream and they cry.
Using the toxin on Falcone, Crane orders him to be sent to Arkham.
Commissioner Love set up a massive task force to catch you. He thinks you're dangerous.
What do you think?
I think you're trying to help.
Where were the other drugs going?
After interrogating Flass, it is revealed that the missing Wayne Enterprises water vaporizer was found in one of Falcone's crates. When discovered by Rachel's boyfriend, the DA, he is shot, set up. Batman then heads to the Narrows, where the second shipment of Falcone's drugs were delivered. There, a boy from an abusive household sees Batman investigating.
It's you, isn't it? Everybody's been talking about you.
Batman's investigation is interrupted by Crane and his goons entering the apartment to torch the evidence. Surprised by Crane's fear toxin,
Having trouble.
Bruce's own fears, the fears he thought he had mastered, flashed before his eyes.
You're not like a man who takes himself too seriously. You need to lighten up.
The Batman faced his first defeat. Rachel goes to confront Crane about moving Falcone to Arkham, where Crane reveals what he had been up to in the asylum, pumping his fear drugs into the city's water supply. Having followed her to the asylum, Batman shows up to rescue Rachel.
He's here. Taste of your own medicine, Doctor.
Batman, due to the fear gas, fully embodies the bat demon of fear he had hoped to become, interrogating Crane.
Who are you working for? Rise Al Ghul. Rise Al Ghul is dead. Dr. Crane isn't here right now. But if you'd like to make an appointment.
The cops, having been called by Crane's goons to flush out Batman, arrive. Batman and Gordon work together to get Rachel out safely. The Tumbler, the Batmobile, is finally revealed.
I'll get my car.
I brought mine.
Yours.
I gotta get me one of those.
The challenge is first technically how to make something as complicated as that steer and work. Every piece of it has been made. You start with a clean jig, put the chassis on, start building the roll cage around the driver and the occupants in there and build it up from nothing.
You get to play Batman, but unless you're the stuntman who's driving that car, you don't get to have the coolest job.
The stunt side of it is we bring in one of the best drivers, George Cottle, who's young, but he's enthusiastic and extremely talented.
The car chase in Chicago, Chris from the beginning wanted to do something really extraordinary and fast.
We wanted to be able to use the Batmobile as a real car and have a real car chase that looks back to, you know, the French Connection and films like this, not the usual kind of studio-bound use of the Batmobile.
Speeds up to 80, 90 miles an hour, I think. And then on the open road, we got up to 100 miles an hour.
There's no trick photography. It's real time, real speed. You know, when the car's going 100, we're going 100.
Our basic approach to tracking with the Batmobile is a device called the Ultimate Arm, which is basically a Mercedes ML55 with a robotically controlled crane arm.
The first night of tracking, they were shouting out speeds of 86, 88 miles an hour. But to do it from car to car tracking is fast.
The director's in this Mercedes with the crane arm on it, flying along at 100 miles an hour. The Batmobile's flying along at 100 miles an hour. And so really there's no room for error. I mean, one little thing goes wrong and somebody's life is in danger.
On this film, George has probably done some of the best driving I've ever seen in all the years I've been doing it. He was absolutely tremendous.
After a very well-executed police chase, the two arrive in the Batcave. And Batman gives Rachel Fox's antidote. Bruce then heads upstairs to his birthday party guests awaiting his arrival. It is then revealed that Ducard has been Ra's al Ghul all along. Crane is broken out of Arkham, along with the other inmates, and Ra's al Ghul's thugs set Wayne Manor ablaze.
You burned my house and left me for dead. Consider us even.
Rachel enters the Narrows as the bridges are lifted, the method the police use to attempt to keep the inmates from getting into the main city. Rachel spots the boy Batman gave a gadget to and attempts to comfort him. As this happens, Ra's al Ghul lays out his plan fully, to use the microwave emitter to make Crane's fear toxin that was pumped into the sewer system airborne, so people breathe it in and destroy each other and the city. A great reset of terror. Finally, Scarecrow arrives, threatening Rachel and the boy, and is immediately incapacitated. How anticlimactic.
Wait. You could die. At least tell me your name.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
Bruce?
Batman as Gordon drive the Batmobile to Wayne Tower to blow the bridge, as Batman distracts Ra's al Ghul on the train.
Familia, don't you have anything new? How about this?
Don't be afraid, Bruce. If you finally learn to do what is necessary, I won't kill you. But I don't have to save you.
Despite the microwave emitter literally entering the building during the crash, it blows up before successfully vaporizing the water main. Gotham is saved. The film begins to wrap up with Rachel meeting Bruce outside the charred remains of Wayne Manor, the brick and mortar remains of his family's legacy. Rachel tells Bruce that the man she loved never in fact came back at all, that Bruce was Batman's mask, who he is, at least in the present. She also tells him something he so desperately needed to hear throughout the film, after consistently being told the opposite.
Father would be very proud of you, just like me.
Nice. Well, Sergeant.
Oh, it's Lieutenant now. You really started something.
In the final scene, Batman meets Gordon on the rooftop of the GCPD. Gordon and Batman agree to a game plan for rounding up Crane and the rest of the escaped inmates, and Gordon tells the Caped Crusader of another criminal that recently popped up with a similar taste for theatrics.
I'll look into it.
I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Batman Begins was a film that never took itself too seriously, while also being faithful to its source material in a grounded, exciting way. The film consisted of many themes, including fear, the importance of action, and family legacy. First, the film's main theme of fear, how the intense feeling can be used as a weapon, both for good and chaos. Fear wasn't just a tool used by the protagonists and antagonists in the narrative, however.
He's dark in that he's driven by very negative emotions. You know, his cause comes from a promise he makes to his parents after their murder, and a great sense of guilt that he was in some way responsible for their deaths, because it was his inability to control his own fears, and consequently his parents were murdered in the alleyway by the site. So there's a great sense of, if he had been able to control his fear, that never would have happened.
Bruce's motivation throughout the film is the fear of not living up to his family legacy. He fears Rachel doesn't like him anymore. He fears what will happen to Gotham upon Ra's al Ghul's return, and if he didn't become the Batman. He feared the idea that corrupt thugs like Carmine Falcone were creating more criminals like Joe Chill through forced financial desperation every single day. Bruce didn't just fear bats. He feared what Gotham might become without the bat, the symbol to bring hope, to shine a light through the darkness. Action speaking louder than words, that failure to act results in atrocity, is the second theme prevalent throughout the film. Ra's al Ghul's main motivation is to bring about the great resets of societies that are at the end of their game of wealth, when the rich have all the resources and the poor are left to die. He believes his methods are justice, and that failure to act will result in only more pain for the civilization. Al Ghul tells Bruce that his father's failure to act to defend his mother was why they ended up dead. Had Thomas attempted to fight the mugger, things may have turned out differently. Even Rachel tells Bruce,
"It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you."
Meaning again, the will to act, but also the actions themselves, being on the forefront of the fight for justice, rather than watching as a passive observer as society crumbles into corruption, is of the utmost importance. A message that is perhaps more important today, 2 decades later. I will also say, on top of Gary Oldman's exceptional performance as Jim Gordon, Gordon's arc, largely influenced by Batman Year One, was very well done. Beaten down, disappointed cop, a good man just wanting to serve his city, finally gets to not just serve, but save the city. Just like Batman himself, the will to act as a hero. Lastly, the theme of legacy was very prevalent throughout the film and Bruce's journey to become Batman. At first, Bruce didn't care about the family name, anger guiding his actions.
The place is a mausoleum. If I have my way, I'll pull the damn thing down brick by brick.
This house, Master Wayne, has sheltered 6 generations of your family.
But Bruce lacked overall guidance in where to place such anger. By taking years to view existence through the lens of the poor, needing to steal food to survive, by seeing the real crime and corruption of Gotham, and just like his parents, attempting to stop it, Bruce is able to uphold the Wayne family legacy of philanthropy and justice bringing in his own way. Though many critics view the legacy theme through the lens of fatherhood,
Your father.
Your father was your father's.
Your father.
My father.
Father would be very proud of you.
going as far to link Bruce's searching for purpose at the beginning of the film, ending up finding Ra's al Ghul, to his search for a replacement father figure to fill the hole left by his father. I would personally have to disagree, as Alfred already fills this role for Bruce. Alfred is someone Bruce can look up to, that will never give up on him.
Never.
No, I think the legacy theme goes far beyond Bruce's search for fatherly guidance, though the narrative fits to a degree when framed through that lens. Legacy, what Bruce's family, not just his father, but both his parents had built. The few wealthy elites that truly wanted and were able to actually bring positive change for everyday working citizens. Bruce thinks of his parents as genuinely good people, not a parasite on society as many viewpoints cite the uber wealthy as. His parents did bring about positive change in the community. So much so that Ra's al Ghul wasn't able to destroy the city through economic policy like he planned years ago.
With Gotham, we tried a new one, economics. But we underestimated certain of Gotham's citizens, such as your parents.
Bruce wants his legacy to live up to his parents. He wants to make them proud.
The apple has fallen very far from the tree, Mr. Wayne.
This is perhaps the element that makes up the most of the essence of the Batman character. Wanting to do right by the dead, his parents, his family. After all, what more can you do for the dead than honor them every single day? Because it's not what you are underneath.
What I do defines me.
When Batman Begins was released in theaters in 2005, nearly a decade after the critical failure that was Batman and Robin, audiences and critics alike praised the film's darker, realistic tone, as well as many of the performances. Some felt the action scenes were weak, especially when compared to the many scenes throughout, lacking any action at all. Some of the scenes of just two characters talking contained such great chemistry from the actors that they were more interesting and attention-grabbing than the choppy, disorienting fight scene editing. Despite this, many people, like prior Batman director Tim Burton, felt that Nolan captured the real spirit of Batman, stating, "When I did Batman 20 years ago, you couldn't go into that dark side of comics yet. The last couple of years that has become acceptable, and Nolan certainly got more to the root of what the Batman comics are about." In fact, the film was overall very well received, with film critic Roger Ebert calling it the Batman movie I've been waiting for. People were glad the film wasn't afraid to lean into comedy and one-liners, but with good taste.
I gotta get me one of those.
Ensuring always that the atmosphere felt real and tense. Because of such overwhelming positive reception, the film was nominated for a vast range of awards. Batman Begins won Saturn Awards for Best Fantasy Film, Best Screenplay, and Best Actor, Christian Bale. Won 9th place in the Top 10 Films Award by the African American Film Critics Association. Christian Bale won Best Hero at the MTV Movie Awards, and the film won 3 Scream Awards, including Best Screenplay, Best Director, and the Ultimate Scream, among many other awards won. Though well received, Batman Begins' performance actually failed to meet Warner Bros.' high expectations at the time, pulling in just under $350 million worldwide, leading to the film being considered a soft hit by the studio. Despite the box office numbers, the film is credited with successfully rebranding the franchise, allowing for massive success later on in the sequels. Batman Begins focused mainly on advertisements for adults, avoiding Happy Meal toy tie-ins to ensure the film's prestige. However, the studio couldn't pass up Batman's commercial prowess, producing many different forms of merchandise, including toys, clothing, and more. Most prominently, Mattel's action figure line, sold at Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, and more, consisted of 5-inch action figures including Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, and multiple variants of Batman. Companies also based toys off of the tumbler, including die-cast models.
Get ready for a bigger and badder Batmobile! But this time, it transforms into the huge Gotham City playset with 9 battle action stations. Stop the runaway subway train. With an action zip line, you're ready to do some damage. And with a battle action ball, you can put criminals in their place. Crime never wins when Batman Begins. Transforming Gotham City playset. Adults assemble batteries and 5-inch figures not included.
For collectors, DC is currently selling a foot-tall, hyper-realistic figure based off of Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, to go alongside Batman and the Tumbler. The DC Multiverse figures produced a Batman Begins collection as well. Common for superhero films at the time, Batman mask and cape sets, utility belts, and Batarang accessories were also released. One of the most popular items was a Halloween mask based off of the film, along with fabric gauntlets, still available online to this day. Lastly, in 2021, LEGO released a Batman set featuring the Tumbler, as well as Scarecrow's nightmare hallucination of Batman, allowing the player to swap between Batman's faces. Just like the prior 4 Batman films, printed tie-ins, novelizations, graphic novels, and more were produced. The main novelization was written by famed graphic novel author Dennis O'Neil, featuring several differences from the film, such as directly referencing the Lazarus Pit, the liquid bath allowing Ra's al Ghul to live forever. Because the character of Ra's al Ghul was created by O'Neil, he was more than comfortable altering the screenplay's more realistic portrayal of the character for the novelization. The graphic novel adaptation was written by veteran Batman writer Scott Beatty, with art from Killian Plunkett and Serge Lapointe. There were several other printed tie-ins, including a junior novelization, storybook, art book, and more. Alongside printed tie-in media, Batman Begins also saw the release of tie-in video games, as was the case with the Batman films released prior. Batman Begins, the video game, was released alongside the film for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and portable stripped-down versions for the Game Boy Advance and mobile phones. The console version was a linear third-person action-adventure game, closely following the plot of the film, adding elements here and there to allow the game to be more interactive. Cutscenes of the film played between levels, and the original cast, save for Jim Gordon's actor Gary Oldman, returned to voice the respective characters.
You know what I want.
The game used a unique combat system, implementing how scared the thugs are, and how easy it is for Batman to defeat them.
How serious? What the hell was that?
By interacting with the environment, Batman can scare the thugs, making them easier to stop.
His ability to beat up the guys is affected by how scared the guys are of him before he enters the scene.
Oh, okay, so all about intimidation.
The more he's intimidated, the less Batman has to do.
I like that, yeah.
The graphics, music, stealth elements, and overall tone were praised by critics, though many also felt the game fell into the standard movie-based game trap of being fine, but forgettable. The Game Boy Advance and mobile versions of Batman Begins stripped down the 3D third-person perspective to become a 2D side-scroller. This version of the game was a platforming beat-em-up with a more traditional level structure. The game was cited as highly difficult, one of the most difficult on the Game Boy Advance, and all versions of Batman Begins featured fantastic music and sound design. Batman Begins, the video game, effectively marked the end of traditional Batman tie-in games, making the console version a unique item for collectors, fans of the Nolan series, and fans of Batman games as a whole. Seen as a soft success, positively viewed by critics and general audiences despite its lower than expected box office pull, Batman Begins was pivotal in shifting the Batman brand from a goofy, loud spectacle of comedic action to something people could take seriously while still having a good time. Following the success of Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan was given the green light for a sequel, starring a new take on a character that had already been in a Batman film. In fact, the villain from the first film in the original series would now be replaced with a new actor, a new take, reboot, in what would become the second film in a new series, a new trilogy with a new canon. Christian Bale's Batman would return 3 years later in 2008's The Dark Knight. Batman Begins was the driving force behind saving the Batman franchise. The change in the 90s film's tone over the span of just 4 films mirrored the Comics Code Authority era tonal shift in the comic strips, leaving the original pulpy noir tone to grow more campy and cartoonish over time. Just like the comics, a tonal shift returning Batman to the shadows, back to his roots, back to the grounded darkness, was exactly what was needed to save the franchise. It's only fitting that a film about legacy was not only able to uphold and be faithful to the legacy of its starring character, the Batman, but also expand on the character's history, introducing important background to the Batman mythos like Ra's al Ghul training Batman. The film rebooted and saved the franchise, allowing the Batman character to start fresh, to begin once more in 2005's Batman Begins.
I never said thank you.